It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Monday, March 31st, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another week together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, do not follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Provi in the media, the Sunday message word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. Okay, how are you doing, everyone? It is a wonderful and awesome Monday. It is the last day of March. Hope you guys will enjoy it. And tomorrow is April 1st. We're already into April, the fourth month of the year. So the year is going by so fast. We've already finished the first quarter of the year, and we're running smoothly into the second quarter, which means we're soon going to be at the halfway point, just like faster than we think. Don't forget, we have Q&A Thursday every single week, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can, and if you haven't yet, please leave a like and comment to build our community. I'm just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive, so let's get up and support each other each and every day. Now, this week's Sunday message was a hungry message, and it was like 57 pages in Korean. I think it was a good 1.5, 2 hours. It was awesome, though. Like the content and the questions that Sunstein was giving, it was so good. I super enjoyed it. And I like some of the stuff in there. I'm like, this is stuff you could just put into like all the YouTube channels and stuff like that, because it's so good. The questions that were asked, God's thoughts and our thoughts are different. God left them alone, being deceived. Do things after checking God's will, right? Yeah, it was just awesome. I loved it, and there was nothing that I could complain about it. I was translating for it too, even though it was long. It was awesome, and for me is like I do translate, and of course we have the script, and because we have the script, I don't really do a ton of preparation. Why? Like, I don't know. This is just me. Like, the reading part is the easy part. That, to speak the part well is okay. Is like, that's an easy thing for me. The thing that I want from it, and this might sound weird, is I really want to feel it at the same time as everyone else. I don't know if that sounds. Does that sound okay? Like, I don't know. Does that make sense? When I translate, I want to be translated, but I want to feel it. I want to listen to it and like have that feeling like, whoa, this is so good. And then just like preach it. Of course, doesn't mean I do zero. Like I do go over it. I do, I don't do like, I'll do, what do you call it? The edits. So it's, I can edit it in a way that it sounds like I'm speaking more than I'm reading. Cause when I speak, I'm not going to say, I do not do this. I'll just say, I don't do this, right? And that's kind of more comfortable when you're listening to something. So I do all those types of edits, and that takes me like, especially for this message, it's like an hour and a half, maybe even long. No, it's longer than that. But I do get all that stuff done. But I really, really want to feel it together, if that makes sense or not. But that's something that I really make sure that I get myself doing also. But yeah, guys, tomorrow is April Fool's, and I'm a little bit bummed out because, I've done 4 years of April Fool's, 4 years of it, right? And this is the 1 year I don't get to do April Fool's because it's not my day to do the podcast. It's really interesting because the Tuesdays with Eddie and Rachel, they get some good stuff from it, and they get the April Fool's. I don't get to do the April Fool's joke. Like, do you guys remember any of the April Fool's? There's 4 of them. I think twice. 2 of the 4 times I said that this was my last day of podcast and I'm going to stop the podcast. I remember that. I think another time I told like a super crazy story, but it wasn't true. But guys, don't you think that last story on Friday was it was worthy of being an April. It was a true story, but it almost feels like it was worthy of being an April Fool's. But it was real. But when you hear the story, you're like, is this even true? And someone was telling me, was it in the comments? They said that story that I told on Friday about the woman who thought she's like the second coming, Like, have you guys played the game Two Truths and a Lie? So people say three stories, and you have to guess which one is a lie, right? And it's kind of like, whoa, like that's kind of crazy kind of thing, right? But Two Truths and a Lie, that story could be used, and people would probably think that one was a lie for sure, right? So yeah, I was like, man, I wish I could do April Fools this year too. But it's not super necessary. It's not like it's a special day. But I had a couple things in my mind like, ooh, what should I talk? What should I say for an April Fools, right? But it's not going to be my day, so I didn't really think about it that much. But tomorrow is April, right? And we're not going to talk about April Fools, but just April in general, which is, I'm super excited because a lot of things are happening in April. So the biggest thing for me is in 2 weeks, like a little over 2 weeks, my whole family's coming to visit. I'm just excited to see them. But most importantly is that they're gonna come to Wonmyeongdong for the first time, my parents. And I think this is the most exciting part. And what God said is just bring them to Wonmyeongdong, and then God will take responsibility for it. So please, guys, April 30th to May 2nd is going to be wild. Like they arrive on the 16th, then they'll arrive in Seoul. They'll spend 2 days there just to get over jet lag, and then they're going to head to Jeju-do and then Busan, back up to Seoul, and then down to like the Wonmyeongdong area. My dad's hometown is near. I think it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours away. So it would just be a nice, easy drive. Then I can go visit them, pick them up, take them to my house, and then hopefully the flower festival will be going on because that would be really cool. But I'm super excited. And for those of you guys who don't know, my parents are Korean, obviously, and they actually saw the slander on TV in 1999. They saw it. Right? So when they saw it, they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then later they find out that I'm in this church, right? So they were like definitely, they were shocked by it and knowing that I'm in this church. But the one righteousness they have is they did not they never opposed me. They never slandered me. And the thing my mom said to me is we trust you that you won't do any bad things. And so even though we may not like the church, we trust you. They've never, ever said with their mouths bad things. And I think I told you this story a while back, is the only thing they ever did was this one time. I think my dad, I understand my dad's worried, and I understand my mom is worried too. But the one time he played like some slander in front of me, without saying it, he just played it, and I was just like, oh gosh, and I got so upset by that. But yeah, they have that righteousness, is they never slandered, they never went against me, they never told me to stop. They said they trusted me, and that's something that I'm very, very grateful and thankful for. And I'm just in the midst of writing Sunsim a letter, just telling him that my family, my parents will be coming to Wonmyeongdong. But one thing I'm even more excited to tell Sunsim is like our family history. Our family is from the same region as Sunsim, both my mom and my dad, right? My dad is only 2 hours away from Wonmyeongdong. My mom is about an hour away from Wonmyeongdong, their hometown. And then it's more exciting that, hey, my grandfather was a pioneering pastor that pioneered over 23 churches in Sunsim's region. So he's one of the big reasons why Christianity flourished in this area. So that makes me very, very excited too. And I can't wait to, that's the one thing I really want to tell Sunsim about too. Right. So yeah, I'm excited. So they come April 16th, 2 weeks they'll spend traveling around. And then on April 30th, they'll come to where I am. And then we're going to spend some time in Wonmyeongdong. I'm sure they're going to love it too. So please, guys, pray for me. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be something that I hope that they will really, really enjoy and like too. Right? So my parents are coming from April 16th, so I'm going to be quite busy with that. But on top of that, April 12th, which is less than 2 weeks away, it's almost exactly 2 weeks away. There's going to be a volleyball tournament. So the first tournament of the spring tournament for volleyball. And that's going to be April 12th. I think there's 16 teams coming out. So that's pretty exciting for that too. And I'm really, really excited because I'm going to be running with the Wonmyeongdong team, right? And this team started 2.5 months ago. and it just started, and it's mainly all second gen SS and second gen campus, and they are good. Like, they really do their best. They've put their all into it. They're really excited, and we just want them to have a good time. And in order for them to have a good time, of course, they need some good players to play with them. So there's like 3 or 4 of us who are going to be playing together with them so that they can have a really, really fun time doing this too. Right? So, it's exciting. All the other teams have been playing for like 3-4 years now, and this team just started 2.5 months ago. So they're really doing their best, and they're going to get their hearts really put into it. And honestly, there's no expectation to do well. We just want to have fun. This is with the kids, right? These second gens, we're going to have a lot of fun. And they put in the effort, and we want them to be excited and happy. But we also don't want them to feel bad, like we're constantly losing games and stuff. Like, we don't want that to happen either. So a bunch of us will help the team so that we can do well together, kind of thing, right? So yeah, I'm excited about this. So that's going to be April 12th. But then the week after, April 19th, which I can't do because I'll be with my parents, there's going to be a basketball tournament. So it's going to be the second annual basketball tournament. The first one was last year. It was awesome too. They had a great time. I would say there's like, if those guys were there, it was the foreign teams. It was Japan, Taiwan. I would say still Japan, Taiwan, and the Philippines were probably the best teams there. And it's not done indoor yet. It'll be eventually done indoor, but really awesome to see them play. And so I can't wait. So you're going to have the volleyball tournament on the 12th, the basketball tournament on the 19th, and then my parents are coming during that time too. So super, super excited. Yes, I am. Okay, I got a testimony for you guys. So I got another testimony. Now, this is not going to be crazy like some, like the one on Friday, but this is something that I'm very, very happy about, like being in this history and kind of seeing the difference between having a bigger history compared to a small one, right? So you guys know that, I got a car like over 2 months ago. By the way, I put like 4,400 kilometers on my car in 2 months. Crazy, right? But so what happens is there's, in America and Canada, they have like a smog check. Like, they have to check your car. Is it running okay? Is it too much emissions or whatever it is, right? And in Korea, they have something like that, but it's like a check you do on your car to make sure that everything's functioning okay. I think you do it every 2 or 3 years in Korea, right? And I took my car to get it, to get just the check. It's like, what? It's like $20 to get this check. And once you get that checked, it's good for the next 2-3 years, right? So I went there, and they're like, oh, your brake light is out. My left brake light. And then they checked and said, hey, I think your right one is out too. And I was like, oh, really? And I was like, how much is it? And they're like, oh, it's an LED light. But my car's like 10 years old. It's like, it's an LED light, which means it's expensive. And they quoted me 220,000 won per light. So I have 2 lights I got to do. So that's like 450,000 won. That's great. That's a lot of money. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. So I'm here trying to get my car checked, just like an easy $20 checkup, and then start driving it even longer. But it ends up being like I'm gonna have to pay an extra 450,000 won just to get it checked. And I was like, wow. Cool thing is, after I was inspired by it to call the elder who sold the car. And he's the one that owns a used car, like he sells used cars. And I was like, hey, they won't let me get my car checked because they say my brake lights are out. He's like, oh, really? And I was like, but they said it's going to cost me like 220,000 per side. And I was just kind of getting nervous. Like, I got to pay that much money just to get my car passed in a regular exam, or I can't drive it. And I told the elder, he's like, oh, let me go check on some stuff. He calls me back like 30 minutes later. And he says, oh, yeah, just bring it over to my shop, and I'll do it for 50,000 won per side, which means it's less than a fourth of what the price they did, right? And I was so thankful to God, like, wow, God, God is really, God, you really helped me in this situation. But the interesting part is, I thought to myself is like, God, you really help us, like, and even like these really small, tiny things. And when I look at what's happening in Providence, I'm like, Providence has such major and massive problems that are happening. But here is God helping me in such a small thing that's only going to make me happy has nothing, like it will have no bearing on what happens to Sunsteam or any of the big things. And I was kind of like, wow, God, I'm so thankful that you help us even in the smallest of things that only makes me happy and no one else. It has nothing to do with the big picture. It has nothing to do with history. But God still helps with even these small things, because I look at that as like, well, that's what love is. When you think about when people really fall in love with each other and people get married and, they just love each other, it's always about the small things. We just want to see each other happy. We just want to see each other do well. We just want to see each other in a better position. And when I really thought about that, I was like, wow, we really have a great relationship with God. We really do. And it made me so thankful that we're in this history as lovers. And despite all of our weaknesses, despite our faults, despite the sin and all of the different things that we have going on in our life, God loves us so much that even just these small things that mean nothing to the grand scheme of this history, even though Sunsteam's the place he's where he is right now, going through a trial, God is still helping us with these small things because he just wants to see us happy. And it really made me think, like, you know what? Here's God wanting to make me happy. What about me? How much do I want to make God happy? Right? And that really came into my head too. And I was like, you know what? I got to think about this much differently also. So I was thinking about that. I thought about that. And then in the end, I was like, oh, God, I was just very, very thankful and very grateful to God for what he did. And it just really helped me to appreciate God more. And it really helped me to just think about how much God, like how much he just cares so much for each and every one of us. So yeah, I'm very, very happy and excited, and I'm very thankful to God that we're able to be in a bride level history, and God is just helping us even with the tiniest of things, right? So that is my testimony for today. And, I was telling you, like, this is one of the big things where the more people there are, the more people God can work through. Right? Because if you're in a smaller country, you may not have a mechanic in Providence. You may not have someone who owns a used car dealership. You may not have these people that can help you in all these small different areas. And I was thinking about, I was like, wow, I'm so grateful and thankful, and God, he has done everything. And that just makes me so happy. I'm just so grateful, so happy. And I have nothing to complain about. And I think of it in a miniaturized level. When you think about yourself too, the more you make yourself in different areas, then the more God can use you in multiple different ways. But if you don't make yourself and you're only good maybe a little bit in one thing, then God can only use you at that level, just a little bit for one thing also. Right? So that is something that I have been thinking about, and I hope that we can really be more and more grateful each and every day for what God has done. All right? So yeah, next, of course, we do have the Sunday Message Word Study, but before we get into it, let's move into the first music break of the day.
The word you preach amazes me. Why do I feel this pain? Ooh. And as much as I know you're the best thing in my life, I will always tell you that I love you every time. It's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. Why do I feel this fate? It's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. Why do I feel this fate? People believe in their fantasies but not God, and that's the problem. That's why they say that it's too hard. No matter how blazing your love may be, our meetings and conversations are the same, you see. You can't let this love go to waste. Doing the same things day to day, we're at the same place. Let's speak with hope about new things and the things you have done. I want to get closer to you, I want to give you my love. If you do not enjoy this love, it will disappear. When your thoughts are hard changes, he will take away your blessing. Gotta find your form, find your mission, and just find your blessings. Let's just get back to the old days and find out the temptation. I wanna get to know you, I want to show you that I can give you the word in many places, many spaces. I have seen a lot of people come and go. You're gonna make it, do your absolute best to reach the final destination. Yeah, it's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. Why do I feel this fate? It's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. Why do I feel this fate? Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you. Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you. Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you. Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you.
All right, so let's get into today's Sunday message word study. And I am laughing a little bit because this March 30th message about God's thoughts and our thoughts, hungry message. It was, I would say, it was probably like 2.5 message combined. And man, when Sunseem says this is the year of the word and evangelism, like he's not kidding. He is putting he's going all out, and he really wants us to do well. And that, that in itself should make us feel so excited and happy, and it should make us and inspire us to want to do even better. Right? And, I'm not saying this, I'm not going to say this, I'm not saying what I'm going to say now as like, hey, why aren't the young people doing, I'm not saying this. What I'm saying is right now is the time. And I remember when I was in my 20s, because I came to Providence 1920. And the one thing I do remember about it, definitely 100% is, man, like that's when I was so passionate. That's when I was getting all my work in. Like when I was running, getting all the stuff I need to get in. It was such a happy time for me, just running for this history. And I hope it's something that many people too will be able to, like the young people, I hope it's something that you guys will really be able to, really be able to grasp onto and just take hold of this opportunity. Because definitely 20s and 30s is when you kind of are just running. Like I would say it's even more physical. It's way more physical. Like you're actually out on campus. You're actually going out and doing these things, where what I see in my 40s now is like when I look at even all of headquarters in Korea, everyone is basically all the directors are 40 and up, all of them. Right? And Sunseem said he was looking for people who were 35 to 45. That's what he's looking for with the directors of Providence and stuff. And like there's of the 9 directors, I think that of the 9 directors, how many of them are over not in the range of 35 to 45? I actually think it's just 2 or 3. I think it's 2. I think it's only 2. And the rest are all around my age, like in that group setting. So when I looked at that, I was like, it's really amazing. I found it very amazing how God is working in this way. And I just see just so many things going on, and it makes me very, very excited just to see how God is making changes in this history right now also. So yeah, that's just one of those big things that I look at, and it makes me very, very excited. And I hope it's something that a lot of us will really be able to it's just something that we need to know is the older we get, the difference of the things that we're doing, right? There's just going to be a difference. Like I can't run like I'm in my 20s anymore. I just can't. It's just I'm beyond that. You know, I'm not as young, or I'm not as spruce as I thought I was. So I hope that this is a time where the young people just go and run, right? There'll be people there to lecture. There'll be people there to help out, but it's a time to just run. And I hope it's something that we will all really, really be able to do together, doing our parts also. So let's get into the Sunday message, okay? Sunday message, a lot of things going on with it. And the first part of it talked about the limits of God, right? And, because we don't know God very well, what happens is we don't, we misunderstand God, and we say things like we say things that we're not really, because we don't know God, we misunderstand and say the things that are not right also. And a lot of it has to do with, because we don't know God well, it talks about us not perceiving God properly. Right? We're not perceiving God properly, which is a very, very important thing that I do think we should be thinking about ourselves is, do we perceive God correctly or not? Right? God is the one who is omnipotent, omniscient, and he is doing things in the best way, which means what? For us, sometimes we're thinking too much of the oh, God has to do it in this perfect way where there's no suffering and no one gets hurt. But we have to realize that in a world where God is created, where there is free will, right? There is absolutely free will. And the way that God works is very, very different. And because we need to understand this, God has to work within these parameters, and that's why there are limitations. But if we don't properly perceive it, right? And if we don't have that trust in God, the way God does it is the best way that can bring the most salvation possible. And that's something that we have to trust and truly believe. The way God is doing it is the best way. We may think to ourselves is, it has to be done where no one dies. And the answer is, that would be great. But with all the way that God has created the world with free will and responsibility, it's not going to be that easy, right? And I hope it's something that we can really get ourselves to understand much better too. Okay. Another part of the message says, if God and the Lord had fulfilled all human responsibilities for them, then think about that. If God is actually doing all of our responsibilities, one of the issues we do need to kind of face is hey, if that's actually what they're doing, then not a single person would go to hell if they did everything, right? If it was done the way God wanted, do you think a single person would go to hell? And the answer is absolutely not. So there's one of the ways that you can see that, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense that God, that there is something that we don't see, that God is not fulfilling our responsibilities, and that's us who has to do it, right? And think about this. If God was really taking care of all responsibilities, then would any of us get cancer and become sick, or get conned or swindled? Would any of us go through those types of pains and suffering if we believed and had faith in God? And the answer is absolutely not, right? We wouldn't. And that is something that I do think we have to understand that much better. Right? We do have to understand this that much better is, hey, we have responsibility, because if God was doing everything, it wouldn't be this way, right? And technically speaking, the way the message said it is, if God really did even our responsibilities, don't you think that none of us would fail at anything because God was doing the responsibility for us? And the answer is, yeah, that's the way it would have been. Right? So it is something I do think we have to take into consideration. And this is something I'm like, man, this is perfect for YouTube channel stuff. It's perfect. And it's something that I hope that all of us can really, really understand at a much higher level also. And, I like this one part that even talks about people of the former faith. It says that, look at believers, look at even believers. They have such strong faith in Jesus, but they're not taught or revealed. Like one of the big themes in the message was what? It was Jesus does not come in the flesh, he comes in spirit. But all these people with great faith in Jesus, what happened? Even Jesus didn't tell them a single sentence. Why? It's because it's about human responsibility. And there's that one part in the message you're like, it's so true, is when basically Sunseem said, think about it. If Jesus had given just one line of revelation, my spirit will return, then they would have known correctly. They would have absolutely believed properly. But God and Jesus left them all alone. And you kind of sit there like, man, like, is that really the right way to do it? You know what I mean? So, God is not informing those who are actually waiting for him, right? But who did he come through? He came through Jesus. And this is one of those major points that we have to look at. And what's that major point is? God is working through the one that is sent. Like, that is such a key thing, is God will not speak through anyone except through the one that is sent. And this is why that message is so important. It is because people are realizing according to what? They're realizing according to their perception. And that's a huge issue. We have to realize that is a huge issue. And if we don't understand this well enough, we're going to actually misunderstand and cause even more problems, right? God is not informing those people, telling them, oh my gosh, I'm coming in spirit. It's like this or it's like that. No, God's not doing that. And we have to realize deeply why. But I would say the most important thing is, if you really believe that God is almighty, God is powerful, God is doing all things, according to the most wisest and greatest way. If you truly, truly believe this, right, then you would have that absolute trust that his way is the best way, and there's no other way better in this type of situation with these types of parameters. There's just no other way. And I think we have to understand this to that level. And if we don't, we're actually going to misunderstand God even more. And we're going to always be thinking about God according to human perceptions, right? And this might seem, honestly, when you use these words like the limit of God, that is something so controversial in the former faith. There is no limit to God. But we need to understand this is the way that God has established things in this way. And because he has, we have to realize that, this is what God is saying. This is what God is doing, kind of thing, right? And if we don't understand it, we're just going to end up misunderstanding God more than anything else, right? So, think about what we just heard. I think we don't really value when Sunseem says this is a seal. This is a sealed secret broken by the owner. That's a huge thing. We are learning a seal right now. That's how big it really is, right? And that makes me very, very thankful and grateful. But I also feel very, what's the right word? I feel like I look at myself and I need to repent sometimes because I don't feel it to the extent I should be feeling it. You know what I mean? We should be feeling it a lot more than what we feel right now. And because of that, we kind of don't satisfy God's heart to the level we should be doing it at, right? So it is something that I look at and I'm like, man, I got to realize even more deeper. I have to think about this in a much higher level too. And if I don't think about that level, I'm not satisfying God's heart, letting him know like how great, what we have is we're so blessed. One part of the message is like, imagine if God gave thundering words like lightning, right? to stop the believers of God and from killing Jesus, who was innocent, right? Because history would be different if they didn't kill Jesus. We know that too. But God didn't do it. God did not stop the actions of the wicked who ganged up. And it's kind of thinking about what we're going through right now. Sometimes we're going to wonder is, oh, why doesn't God stop the wicked? Why doesn't he do it that way? It makes no sense. Why isn't God doing it this way? Right? Why does he only make the righteous suffer? The righteous go through to sacrifice first. And because of this, there's a lot of people whose faiths are dying because the wicked keep coming in that strong. But it's because we don't know how God works. And this is a thing that I would say is very, very shocking for us to really comprehend. I think it's something very, very shocking is this. The message said that when things are done according to God's method, then what happens? Then the result is 1,000 to 10,000 times better. So put it this way, guys. Imagine if we did it according to our method and our ways, it would be 1,000 to 10,000 times worse. Think about that. 1,000 to 10,000 times worse. That's how bad it would be. You know? And that's something that I think that we have to recognize. Like, wow, if we did it our way, not the wisest and the greatest way with like compared to the almighty, all-knowing God, man, it would be 1,000 to 10,000 times worse. And this is why, like this week's message, we need to realize God's will. Right? We need to realize God's will. And that is something I do think that we have to, bring ourselves to that next level also, right? There is that limit between God and human beings, and we have to recognize and realize this really, really deeply. And one of the things that's really interesting, when you look at the Bible is so clear about a lot of these things. It's so clear that, we don't have all the answers, and we're still waiting for the Christ to come. Like, think about that. 1 Corinthians 4:5, judge nothing before the appointed time. Wait until the Lord comes. He will bring to light what is hidden, right? He will bring to light what is hidden. And for me, I think that's quite shocking because here's basically the Bible telling us that not everything is known. So you can't just have those expectations thinking like, oh, everything is done, everything is set, because it's not. And we're thinking to ourselves that everything is done. It's not. And we have to recognize it. Yeah, that people should be recognizing that we're expecting more to come. We should be expecting more to come. And I really hope it's something that we will get ourselves to, to have that trust in this almighty God that we believe and love, right? And it would be something that I hope that many of us would be able to, to recognize and realize too. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. Even the scriptures, like we don't have all the answers, and and we just gotta wait for him, because when Jesus comes, the answer is gonna come. It's gonna come, and we have to be that faithful until the end and trusting in God that even if we're going through the difficulties and hardships, it's in the best way possible, right? Because remember what the message said about if you have a wrong perception. So think about it. Imagine if God helps you when you have the wrong perception, then you're going to believe that your wrong perception is right. Right? And they're going to just keep believing their views even more strongly. And that's why you cannot continue to be with these people, kind of thing. Right? So I hope it's like, unless it's the person that receives the most is going to be the man of mission. God leaves people alone as they are. This is the answer. This is the principle of reason. Everyone else is, because everyone should be following the one that God has sent. So, remember the 3 reasons why God leaves people alone? There was the 3 reasons given, right? And when you look at it, I think it's very powerful. The 3 reasons, right? So remember, the first reason is God always works only up to the line of God, right? You have to know this. So we have to do what we need to do, and God does what he needs to do. So that's the first reason is why does God leave people alone? Number 1 is because of responsibility. Second one is it has to do with only the one that God has sent. That's a big one, right? It's a big one is God has to work through the one that is sent. That's the second reason why God leaves people alone, because we have to trust in the one that is sent. And the third reason is about perception, right? It's we do things according to our own perceptions. So, even if something's God's will, if it doesn't go well or tribulation arises, then we say, oh, it's not God's will, right? People have to have that trust, that ability to believe in God all the more, right? So that's something I think that's very, very important also. Another thing that something said is very, very important is, and this is interesting because I think we all go through this. There are things that we think are God's will, but it's not. And we keep saying, it's God's will, it's God's will, it's God's will. And we judge things and thinking that it's God's will or even Sunseem's will. And this is when people fail seriously. And this is why we need to realize it's about what? It's a combination of our responsibility and the responsibility of God, the Holy Spirit, and the one who comes. There's two things that has to happen for things to be successful. It's both of it, right? And if we don't realize or recognize this is when a lot of problems begin to happen. If you have the wrong perception, imagine if it's Satan or like demons working through you. You're going to call demon or Satan's work as God's work, right? So we have to believe in God, the Holy Spirit, the Holy Son, and Jesus, the one that has been sent, right? We have to be those, and that's kind of one of the big messages that did come out also is that's why you got to check, right? You got to check. And if we don't check, this is where a lot of big problems actually happen. We've got to keep checking, right? So, when you look at Providence too, even inside of Providence, there's some of us that have the wrong perception about Sunseem. And then they receive revelations on their own, on that foundation. Then they get into an even bigger problem. And then you have, and then, it's basically about you have the wrong perception, what happens? You have the wrong perception, things go well. You come to ruin. And if you have the right perception, then, you'll be successful. And we have to understand is people get into a huge problem because they have the wrong perception about Sunseem, wrong perception about this history too, and they think it's right. But here's one of the big blessings that I love that comes from the word is, but look at us. We're listening to the word of the times, going on with the knowledge of providence. Like there's so much blessing that we're receiving. Right? This is 100% the core history, the complete testament. 47 years of history. And those that left had the wrong perception. And you can see by the way that they think about it. Right? And we have to be those that realize and recognize all the more. Right? So I hope it's something that all of us can really understand even more to that level too. Right? So yeah, a lot of things to think about. And one thing that was very, very important that Sunseem brought up is why you are following this time period. And Sunseem says if you follow based on the title, his mission, right? If that's what you're following based on, oh, he's the man of mission, oh, he's the one that is sent, then you got to study again. You got to study the words again. Like that's how big it is. You got to re-study the words again, right? Then you can become official Providence people. Because if you don't know, you eventually become Sunseem's enemies. And why does Sunseem say that? Because that's what has actually happened. People are becoming Sunseem's enemies. And, Sunseem gave 3 reasons why people left. The 3, there's more than 3 reasons, obviously. But Sunseem says, let me give you 3 reasons especially. Because they left because love was not fulfilled as they desired. Or things not granted according to their method, right? Like there's a lot of things that when we think about, we have to recognize really well what is actually being said, and I hope it's something that we'll realize all the more. The last thing was what was the third reason? Laziness, right? If instead of working hard, they try to benefit from other people's hard work. So then God casts these people out, which is quite sad if you think about that too. Like you're just working off someone else. Yeah, that's a very, very, I think that's a very difficult thing too. Like if you always live off other people, it's kind of like you're a mooch, and no one likes a mooch, right? So we need to learn perfectly, learn correctly from the one that God has sent, learn about him properly, right? And those who don't learn perfectly or properly, God leaves them alone. Then they come to ruin on their own, right? They come to ruin on their own, right? So God left alone anyone who doesn't learn perfectly, doesn't learn from the one that is sent. People who base things on their own perceptions, people base things on these things, that's what God does. He leaves them alone, right? This is a principle of reason that God says. What about the part when Susie talks about drinking? I thought that was really, that was amazing. That was super amazing. When Susie was like, oh yeah, if someone says, it's okay to drink, God says, yes. Person says, oh, I shouldn't drink, right? Then God says, yes. God says yes, according to a person's own perception, thoughts, and level. That is crazy, but it makes sense. Why? Because you have to think about it. It makes sense because what a kid can do and what an adult can do are very different because it depends on their level. How forgiving we are and such too, it really depends on the level. It does, right? When someone doesn't know, they come to their own ruin. But we have to make ourselves the best that we can, right? That's why the Bible says, "Make yourself blameless." But it really has, it was so shocking to me when he's like, "Yeah, God will say yes." And you're like, what? Yeah, God is going to say yes. And you're like, whoa, that's so crazy, right? For each situation, he says yes. And yeah, for me, that was quite shocking for me to hear that. I was like, wow. But it makes sense. So all of us, we have a responsibility to practice our own faith. Take action according to our thoughts, which means we need to have the right thoughts, right? We have to know God's line. What's the limit that God has? That's an important thing for all of us to know and understand really well too, right? Man, the one part that really struck me is the one I talked about before is if you have incorrect perception, if God helps you, then what happens? Then you're going to think that your own thoughts are matching God's thoughts. And it leads to even bigger problems, which means ask me. If it's especially something about sunseam, ask him. Ask God, ask the Holy Spirit in prayer. Ask, and you'll get your answer so that we can be on the right track, right? So I hope that everyone will, this week's message, obey the words, put them into action, discard, got to empty yourself, learn about God absolutely through the one sent for the time period, and think perfectly, right? And, the thoughts are that big. Thinking correctly and incorrectly is that big, right? And we have to be those that really recognizes this to that level. It's such an important thing. And what about the part when it's kind of scary is now is a time when God is cleansing all the rotten things of individuals, nations, and the world. Cleansing is separating judgment. Look at the news. The nation and the world are in extreme commotion, right? And Sunseam already said in the past, extreme days will come, so watch. And that's why, on Wednesdays we do have the news around the world, the news media, right? And we have to see what's going to actually happen. It's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen, right? We just have to understand it to that extent and to that level too. What about that sad part when it talks about Jesus prophesied the Lord of glory and the Lord of affliction, right? There's the two things that were prophesied about Jesus. But, it's so sad to hear because when you hear Sunseam say this, man, you just think about his situation. He says, if people had done properly, Jesus would not have to bear the cross. And I can't help but think of this time period, like we could have done better. We should have done better. We really should have done better, right? We like, it's so crazy when you hear that. It really is. For me, I'm just like, wow, we really, really should have done better, right? And it's sad when I hear that because it just reminds me of the time period we're living in right now. If the people who had waited acted properly towards the one sent, then he'll come as the Lord of glory, right? But if they don't, then he comes as the Lord of suffering. Jesus did not have to bear the cross, but he died because those who had waited and those who followed failed to do right. Sinners killed him, right? And we have to reach that level. So, I think another big message near the end, which I also thought was very, very important, was when Sazim said, he said verify, right? Verify, check, discern, verify. And that's like a big message that came. And this is where we're deceived because of our own human responsibility. We didn't check, we didn't verify, we didn't do the things we're supposed to do. And this is why there's all these problems that happen in our life, right? That's just the reason why. So I hope that we'll really take this message to heart. And I think I barely touched this message. There's so much to think about in this one. But, remember, the key thing is God is speaking through the one that is sent. So check, discern according to God's will. Don't have your own thoughts, right? Listen to the word and live within the will. And the more perfectly we do things, the more the Holy Spirit will be with us, right? And I hope that all of us too, as we act boldly in this history, will overcome the world, right? Sansim says, I have done my responsibility of teaching you. Now, everyone, you need to do your own responsibility of learning and taking action. Amen. Amen. Powerful and awesome message. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Okay. So if there's anything else, I hope that you guys will really open your hearts and your minds even more each and every day. And that we can really get ourselves to be even more deeper into this history and really preach with the fire. Okay. So there it is, guys. That is the Sunday message word study. If you have any questions, let me know. And before we get into Provi and the media, let's move into the final music break of the day.
I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. We stay looking for someone to hold when the right one's standing at your door. Open up your heart and say, I believe in what you say, and I promise you will gain much more. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. 10 years of struggle, 10 years of pain, but I'll finally get to see you no more. Just calling your name, and the ones who wonder who, just open up your eyes. He's waiting for you too. He's not a man in disguise. And the hardest cross to bear, but your heart's not what I wear. To think this effort and this love could overcome the dirty stairs. And it's all because of you. Yeah, it's all because of you. Said it's all because of you. Yeah, I need you. Looking for someone to hold when the right one's standing at your door. Open up your heart and say, I believe in what you say, and I promise you will gain much more. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one.
Okay, so let's get into today's final segment, which is Provi in the media and what is happening in the media right now over here in Korea. Not a lot of things going on, and this is kind of more of a side note as Sunseem's trial, its second trial is going on right now. But remember the producer of the Netflix documentary? His name is Cho Sung-hyun. He's the producer of the documentary I Am God, and in the past, there was a big thing where he's being investigated. He was being charged of violating the Special Act on the Punishment of Sexual Crimes. And the ruling was he is not going to be indicted, right? So he's not going to be indicted on any of the charges, right? So he was sent on charges of violating this Sexual Crimes Act. Like he's actually showing, without, what do you call it? Like blurring out the private parts and stuff. So on the 27th, so that is just about 4 days ago, the Seoul Western District Prosecutor's Office's Crime Against Women and Children Investigation Department announced it had decided not to indict this producer on charges of inserting and distributing nude videos of believers without consent while producing a documentary accusing the sexual assault allegations of for CGM and stuff. So the prosecution said they found no illegality in the producer in the producer's charges, and the prosecution explained, considering comprehensively the results of supplementary investigations such as analysis of the program scenario and review of legal principles, the purpose and context of the production of the program, the circumstances of obtaining the video and its importance in the overall program, the de-identification measures for the filming subjects, the video rating committee's rating review decision, and the court's decision to dismiss the provisional injunction to ban the screening, it is judged that the suspect's actions fall under justifiable acts that do not go against social norms. So, yeah, that's another thing that just recently happened. So the producer's not going to be charged on it. I'm sure a lot of us wished, we super wished it would happen, but it did not. So, yeah. So let's just see. All we can do is hope and pray, and to see what God is going to do next. All right. So we do, guys, remember, we do have the prayer condition that is starting today. And I hope you guys, it's for the 1 million evangelism. We have ministry for 1 million people. And this is a really, really big thing that Sunseem really wants to. And I hope that we can be those that can do it for Sunseem in his generation while he's still living. I think that's going to be a very, very important thing too. All right. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that is that we need to talk about. And the answer is probably not. All right. So I gotta sneeze. Oh, I hope you didn't hear that. I put the microphone in my armpit. I don't know. That sounds gross too. But either way, everyone, I hope you have an amazing and awesome Monday, and enjoy your last day of March. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow in April on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone,